Education headlines now. Area public schools have been through a whirlwind of changes and adjustments during the pandemic, but now more guidance from the TEA we're learning. And what many may not know is that all guidelines that are put forth for public schools are also required for charter schools who receive federal and state funds to operate. Nora Bettis spoke to one local charter school to find out how they are adjusting to these recent regulations.
I mean, they've given lots of solid, good information. It's easy to follow, but it's just an arduous task.
Janine Kidwell, superintendent of Seashore Charter School, says the announcement from the Texas Education Agency provides much-needed guidance for public schools and charter schools across the state. TEA Commissioner Mike Moratz says all public schools may turn to their local health authorities to determine when to return to in-person instruction without losing funding.
And so we want to ensure that parents have access to an on-campus instructional environment if they should so choose, but also that parents can keep their children home and be supported with remote instruction if they should so choose.
But things could still change in the future.
As coronavirus continues to affect the state, as the science and scientific understanding of the virus continues to change, as medical therapies continue to change, it obviously necessitates a flexible response, and we will continue to remain flexible throughout.
Many campuses, Seashore Charter included, are starting their fall semester completely online, something their teachers and students got to try last spring.
During the spring, when we had to turn on a dime and go remote, we had the majority of our children were hardworking, connected. We knew where all of our kiddos were. There was none that were missing in action.
And Kidwell is confident that her students will thrive in spite of, or maybe because of, this new educational environment that is quickly becoming the norm.
I think overall the kids really got a lot out of just staying connected to Seashore, staying connected to their teachers and their peers, even though it was at a distance. Promoted their learning despite the suddenness of the change for sure.
Nora Bettis, 3 News.